Hello, and today I have for you guys a redstone tutorial video. This was requested, so here it goes. This will be going from the absolute basics of redstone, and I will not be dabbling into any of the advanced stuff, because there are even some really advanced stuff with redstone that I have no idea about. So, first things first, there are different levels to redstone power. Now, the typical redstone output power is 15. As you can see on F3, to the right bottom, you will see that it says Minecraft redstone wire, east, north, southwest, and it says power 15. You can always look at this in F3 if you are confused about what power level you're at. Also, there's a visual of the brightness of the redstone itself as power flows through it. And it will always have the little particle even if there is very little power running through it. If there is no power, there are no particles. As you can see here, I have lights set up to show the power as well. This is power level 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and so forth. Now, that number also indicates how far redstone can travel. Like, when it is right next to the power source, it'll have 15, or depending on the power source, it'll have less. And so as it travels horizontally, it loses power. Now there are ways of gaining it back, but that will be explained later. So basically, redstone can only travel 15 blocks before it loses power. Alright, now that we know how redstone itself works power-wise and how it loses power, we'll go on to some redstone output devices. These are simply devices that output power. This, of course, is a lever. Its output power is 15, and its special thing is that you can toggle it on and off. Basic, very basic. Now, you have buttons and pressure plates. I put these in the same category because they are a pulse delay. So, if I activate it, it stays on and then it turns off. It has a turn on, a delay, and then it turns off. So it's not like the lever in the way that it is instantly on, instantly off. This is a on, wait, off. Same with the pressure plate. Now, tripwires. Oh, right. They also have an output of 15. Most of these will have a output of power 15. We will get into the others later. Tripwires. They have two output sources, and you can make them incredibly long. This one goes all the way over here. And due to the recent Minecraft update, you are now able to lay them over lava, water, air, and so forth. I really like this update because I tried to trap someone once over water, trying to trap their boat, but I could not do that because it could not float in the air. Okay, so we go on to a daylight sensor. The output power is dependent on the positions of the sun or the moon, depending on, if you right click on it, you can change it into a moonlight sensor. So this will sense daytime, so it sends out power depending on where the sun is. And this will send out power depending on where the moon is, if we bring out the moon. Now, a bit difference between the sun sensor and the moon sensor. The sun one has an initial output of 15 when the sun is directly above, or if it's way over there. but the moonlight sensor, has an initial of 11, and that is at its peak. It only peaks at 11, while the daylight peaks at 15. And all in all, the sensor does not go down too gradually during the day. It's mostly at the end of the day, and especially for the moonlight sensor, it will especially fluctuate during the rise of the moon. But once the moon gets not too high, it'll just stay at 11 all night until the next day, and then it'll start changing again. That is how that works. That is good for making a daylight door sensor, so you can have a door that will automatically close at night to keep the mobs out, and you don't have to worry about closing it every time. And you can adjust its sensitivity by just simply moving the sensor closer or farther away from the pistons by just extending the redstone, because the power will go down and lose power as it goes, and it will gain power as the day goes on. Really though, these would be nighttime sensors, because you would have it closed during the night. And if you wanted it to close, let's say you wanted it to close as soon as the moon came out. It was still daylight out, you want it to come out as soon as the moon comes out. You would put it right next to it. Now if you want it to have a little delay, like you don't want it to close as soon as the moon comes out because it's still pretty light outside, you would drag it away a bit. And then your door would not turn on until the night actually started, and maybe even time it so then it starts when the mobs start spawning. A lot of uses for the daylight sensor. One of my favorites. Okay, moving on. We have trap chests. They only have an output of 1. They are activated by simply opening the chest. And as you can see, it will activate redstone beside it and under it, under the block that it is set on. Alright, now we have a redstone torch. It has an output of 15. It is a constant source of redstone power. So you get the 15, 14, 13. It will not activate redstone that is lower than it, like this, or under the block that it is on. But we will get more into that later. We also have the redstone block. It is also a constant source. The redstone has to be directly applied to it. You cannot do it under it a little bit or directly under it. Now, we're going to get into powered blocks a little bit. Powered blocks is when you have an output source on a block. It depends on the output source, but for the most part, like a lever or a button, you flick it and it will power not only the space that it occupies, but the space under it, the block it is attached to. And so, of course, the lever will send out a pulse. The lever is also sending out a pulse here because this block under it is powered and is sending its signal here. It also reaches directly below it because this block itself is powered. And that is how this is able to reach under it, because it not only powers next to it, but it powers below it. And same with several of these. The daylight sensor is not one of these. It does not power the block it is on. It can only do what is beside it, what it is actually directly connected to. Now, the tripwire, it also triggers the block itself. It powers this block and this one, allowing it to send power below the block and beside the block on any side. Very useful. And of course, same with these and the lever, which I already showed you, but oh well. And so we continue. Now a little bit more complicated. This will do more with how powered blocks work and different ways to power a block. This is simply just a lever attached to the back. As you can tell, the block powers redstone beside it and under it and on top of it. Now this is one of the ways that a redstone torch powers blocks. A redstone torch cannot power a block under it or beside it, but it can power the block directly above it, allowing the block above it to send power even higher above it or beside it. As you can tell, this torch does not power a block next to it, or one that is above it at an angle. This torch, it can also power redstone that is directly beneath it, as you can tell here. It does not power the block under it or beside it that it is actually connected to. It can only send power to redstone that is directly next to it, or it will power the block that is directly above it. As you can tell here, this block behind it is not powered. It's not powering any of the redstone. It is not powering the block that is directly under it, so it is not being able to reach this. It is, however, powering the redstone that is directly next to it. Okay, so as you can tell, here's another little example. It is sending out redstone all surrounding it and above it. This is all the uses for a redstone torch. There is some more uses for the redstone torch, but I will get into that into a later video. Okay, now the redstone block works about the same way, except for it is the powered block, and it cannot really power blocks at all. It cannot power the block above it. It can only power redstone that is directly connected to it. As you can tell, it does not power the block next to it. It does not power the block under it. It can only do direct redstone connection. Okay, that about does it for powered blocks. Now let's get into one that I only recently experimented with. It is weighted pressure plates. The output is dependent on weight. Now, what does it consider as weight? It seems as though the weight is the number of entities. And so, we have a lightweight pressure plate and a heavy pressure plate. I will explain the difference later. But for now, one entity, one power. As you can tell on F3, the power level is 1. And so, let's drop 2 entities on it. 2, power level 2. And so on and so forth. And so, a mob and a player are also an entity. So, let's put a creeper in here. Power level 1. 2 creepers, 2 power level. 3 creepers, 3 power level. And it will keep going until it reaches its max of 15 output. The power is 15. It cannot go any further even if there are many more creepers. Alright. Let's get rid of them real quick. Come on now. There we go. And so, this is sort of how the heavy pressure plate works, except for it takes a lot more entities to get power from it. Now, it will get power from one entity. But in order for it to get to the next power level, it needs 10 more entities. And in order to get to the next one, it needs 10 more. So, to explain this, it is 1 entity for 1 power, 11 entities for 2, 21 for 3, 31 entities for 4, and so on and so forth. You just keep adding 10 onto 1. And so, if I sit here and throw in so many creepers, I'll collect this, you will see the power level start to rise very slowly. And so, it's already on power 1. Now it's on power 2. We have 11 creepers in there. Now we have 21 creepers in there at least. There we go, we've reached the 31 mark, 41 mark, 51 mark, and so on. And so the heavy weighted pressure plate is mainly for a lot of entities. If you want something to be activated by a whole lot of entities being crammed onto one little space. RIP headphone users. Alright, and as you can see, my skin is not loading because the internet is down. And so I figured I'd take this time to record. Alright, next we have the detector rail. It has an output of 15, and it is a pulse delay kind of like a button or a pressure plate. And also, you can simply just push the minecart on top of it. Oop. This is hard to do. We'll just set it right on top. It will also hold the signal if the minecart is simply stationary on top of it. It also powers the block it is on, so it does power the redstone underneath. And it powers blocks that are beside it, like redstone lamps. And powered rails that are connected to it. I will not be getting too much into the minecart systems and how all that works. Personally, I don't even know that much about it. I may do another video on it separately. Alright, now it is time to move on to redstone input devices. I will be going through these very quickly because they're very simple. Pistons can push blocks. Sticky pistons will push and retrieve blocks. Note blocks just make noises. You got dispensers, they will shoot arrows or other things. I could probably do a whole video on the different uses for dispensers. Droppers do not shoot arrows. They will simply drop any item in its item form as if you were simply pressing the drop key. Alright, another use for dispensers, you can put in a bucket of lava. The redstone activating it will empty the lava. And if you activate the bucket inside of it by adding another redstone signal, it will collect whatever is in front of it, in this case being the lava that it simply just dropped out. Same works for water. Now, we have the hopper. The hopper transfers items through itself into the next thing. Now, if you put a redstone signal to it, it will disable it. And so, the items that you put in will not go through. You take away the signal, the item goes through. Technically, doors, trapdoors, and gates are redstone activated because, well, they activate with redstone. Now we have activator rails. You put a redstone signal, any power, and it will activate the first one. The first one can link to 8 more in each direction that it is directly connected to. So this one, go 8 further, you have 9 rails connected. Now, if I put this sideways on it and activate it, this will be able to go another 8 in this direction as well. And just to show that you can use any power level, this pressure plate will send out a power level of 1 for me standing on it. And yet it still powers all the rails connected up to the cutoff point. Alright, now we have the activator rail. I'm not going to get into this because I simply do not know what it does completely, and if it turns out to be very interesting, I may put it in a video. Then we got the redstone lamp. Alright, now redstone repeaters have many uses. Could probably make a large video just on redstone repeaters. This will simply go into the basic uses of it. One use of it is to extend a signal, and so this is creating a 15, 14, 13 going all the way down it's down to 1, it's about to die, you put a repeater, it boosts it right back up to power level 15. And so it'll go back 15, 14, 13, all the way down to 1. You put another one, powers it back up to 15, and voila, you can power whatever you want. And so this is a way of making long-ranged redstone. Alright, you can also set these by right-clicking them. It'll move the little torch. And this will add a delay to the repeater, this being the maximum delay. And so I'll put a maximum delay on both of these. And you can see it took a little bit of time for the redstone to pass through. It also takes a little bit of time for the redstone to stop. Now this is a greater version of the delay. This is a way to greater see how the delay works. So the redstone is slowly going through. Now let's cut it off. It is slowly dissipating. And yet, it still powers for as long as I flipped the switch. This also works well with a toggle. Oh, that's not a toggle, a pulse delay. Alright, and that does it for the basics of a redstone repeater. Next is redstone comparators. I really love these. These are my favorite, but I do not have time to go into their many, many, many uses. And that about wraps up this redstone tutorial. Yep, redstone. Gotta love it.